The movie begins deep in the dark, neon-lit underbelly of San Francisco. In a dim, smoke-filled back alley, a sketchy crowd gathers around an illegal underground bot fight ring. In the center, a massive, spiked robot named Little Yama absolutely obliterates a smaller opponent. Controlling this mechanical beast is Yama, a hulking gang leader who smiles maliciously as he scoops up a massive stack of gambling cash. He roars, demanding to know who dares challenge him next. Stepping forward from the shadows is Hiro Hamada, a seemingly naive, wide-eyed 14-year-old. Holding a fragile-looking toy robot with smiley face features, Hiro nervously offers a meager handful of cash. Yama laughs directly in the kid's face but accepts the bet. The match begins. Within 3 seconds, Little Yama slaps Hiro's tiny bot across the ring, breaking it apart. Utterly devastated, Hiro apologizes and begs for one more chance, pulling out a massive, hidden stack of $100 bills, his entire stash of illegal winnings from previous nights. Yama's eyes light up with greed. He accepts the rematch. As the countdown ticks down, the innocent panic instantly vanishes from Hiro's face, replaced by a confident smirk. The second round starts. Before Yama can react, Hiro's microbot executes a series of impossibly fast, highly advanced acrobatic maneuvers. It evades Little Yama's heavy strikes, spins through the air, and systematically dissects the giant robot into a pile of smoking junk. The crowd gasps. Hiro casually scoops up his massive winnings. Infuriated by the loss, Yama orders his thugs to teach the kid a permanent lesson. Hiro's confidence evaporates as he backs up against a wall, completely cornered. Just before the thugs can strike, a motorcycle engine roars down the alley. Crashing through the back door is Tadashi Hamada, Hiro's older brother. Tadashi yells for Hiro to jump on, hits the throttle, and tears out of the alleyway just as the gang lunges. As they speed through the neon streets, Tadashi fiercely lectures his younger brother, reminding him that bot fighting is illegal and that he is wasting his brilliant mind on cheap gambling. Suddenly, flashing police lights appear before them. Within the hour, both brothers find themselves locked inside a holding cell. Eventually, they are bailed out by their loving and deeply stressed Aunt Cass, who has raised them since their parents passed away. On the drive home, she rides a hilarious emotional roller coaster, screaming at them for getting arrested, then immediately apologizing and offering them free donuts from the bakery cafe she runs beneath their apartment. Back in their shared bedroom, Hiro remains unfazed. The second Aunt Cass leaves, he starts booking for another illegal bot fight across town. Realizing that lecturing won't work, Tadashi tells Hiro he will drive him, but needs to quickly stop by his university lab first. Hiro reluctantly agrees, having no idea he is walking straight into a trap designed to change his life forever. They arrive at the San Francisco Institute of Technology, a world-class laboratory facility for the brightest scientific minds. Hiro dismisses it as a mere nerd school, but the moment they step into Tadashi's shared workspace, his mind is blown. Tadashi introduces Hiro to his brilliant, eccentric group of friends. Gogo Tamago, a tough adrenaline junkie testing a high-velocity bicycle utilizing friction-free electromagnetic suspension wheels. Wasabi, a heavily muscled neat freak who demonstrates a plasma-induced laser grid capable of slicing through solid metal like butter. Honey Lemon, a bubbly chemistry genius utilizing a specialized electronic purse to mix volatile compounds into expandable chemical foam on the fly. Fred, a passionate sci-fi comic book nerd and the school's enthusiastic mascot, who pitches wild ideas like wanting a suit that turns him into a fire-breathing lizard. The real shock comes when Tadashi takes Hiro to his personal workbench and introduces his years-long project, Baymax. Baymax instantly scans Hiro, identifying his vitals, and introduces himself as a personal healthcare companion. Tadashi explains that he programmed Baymax with a comprehensive medical database containing over 10,000 procedures. Tadashi explains that he didn't build Baymax for fame or money, he built him to help people. Looking into his brother's eyes, Hiro feels a profound sense of inspiration. Just then, Professor Robert Callahan, the legendary head of the university's robotics program, walks in. Hiro recognizes Callahan instantly as a personal idol whose textbooks he used to learn robotics. Callahan inspects Hiro's microbot and is deeply impressed. However, he coldly remarks that if Hiro wants to attend this university, he will need an invention that completely redefines what is possible at the upcoming annual science showcase. Hiro instantly decides he wants into this school. For weeks, Hiro suffers from severe writer's block. Seeing his brother struggle, Tadashi picks Hiro up upside down, shaking him, and tells him to change his angle, to look at the problem from a completely different perspective. This sparks a brilliant epiphany. Instead of building one giant, rigid robot, Hiro decides to build an infinite army of tiny ones working together. He pulls endless all-nighters manufacturing thousands of tiny, finger-sized metallic pods. On the night of the exhibition, the massive university hall is packed with spectators and corporate talent scouts. Standing on the stage with severe stage fright, Hiro is comforted by Tadashi, who adjusts his collar and expresses total belief in him. Hiro walks onto the center stage, donning a sleek neurocranial transmitter headband. On the floor sits a massive container filled with his microbots. Through the neural headband, the microbots read Hiro's brainwaves instantly. Whatever Hiro thinks, they construct in real time. With a simple thought, they assemble into a towering skyscraper, then morph into a massive mechanical hand that lifts Hiro high into the air. Hiro explains their limitless applications in construction and search and rescue. The presentation earns a massive standing ovation. Backstage, Hiro is approached by Alistair Cray, a wealthy, arrogant tech billionaire and CEO of Cray Tech Industries, who offers a fortune to buy the technology on the spot. Professor Callahan steps in, warning Hiro that Cray is a ruthless businessman who will weaponize the microbots. Trusting his mentor, Hiro turns down Cray's millions. Impressed by Hiro's integrity, Callahan hands him an official golden acceptance letter to the university. Outside, under the beautiful night sky, the group celebrates. Cass drives the friends away to prepare a feast at the cafe, leaving the brothers alone. Hiro deeply thanks Tadashi for never giving up on him. The celebration is violently cut short as they heard a loud fire alarm out of the building. Running toward the chaos, a fleeing student screams that Professor Callahan is still trapped inside the blazing inferno. Without hesitation, Tadashi prepares to sprint into the burning wreckage. Hiro grabs his brother's jacket, pleading with him not to go. Tadashi looks back, gently detaches Hiro's hand, and utters his final words, "Someone has to help." A split second later, a massive, catastrophic explosion guts the building, throwing Hiro backward onto the pavement. Weeks pass. The tragic explosion claimed the lives of both Callahan and Tadashi. Shattered by the devastating loss, Hiro withdraws entirely from the world, leaving his golden acceptance letter unopened on his desktop. Later, Hiro accidentally drops his heavy bot onto his foot. He cries out in sharp pain, which activates a sleek red capsule in the corner of his room. Emerging from the shadows is Baymax, triggered by the auditory cry of pain. Baymax walks over, his balloon arms outstretched. "I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion." Hiro tries to push the massive robot back into his charging station, but Baymax persists, explaining that his programming prevents him from deactivating until his patient is fully satisfied. Scanning Hiro, Baymax diagnoses him not with a physical injury, but with severe emotional trauma, grief. While trying to force Baymax away, Hiro notices a strange, faint glowing object under his bed, a single, tiny microbot pod, and then place it inside a glass jar. Hiro is deeply confused. He thought all his microbots were destroyed in the fire. Suddenly, the tiny pod begins to vibrate violently, pressing hard against the glass, desperately pulling toward a specific direction in the city. Hiro casually remarks that the pod must be defective because microbots only move when controlled by a neural headband. Taking this as a literal medical directive to cure Hiro's grief, Baymax takes the jar and walks right out of the house into the bustling city streets. Panicking, Hiro sprints after him. Following the magnetic pull, they arrive at an abandoned, heavily locked industrial warehouse at the harbor. Squeaking through a small window, they discover a massive, fully automated assembly line actively manufacturing millions of black microbots. Hiro gasps in shock. He realizes the truth: the fire wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate arson attack meant to cover up the theft of his technology. Suddenly, a massive wave of millions of microbots rises from the floor like a giant serpent. Standing on top of the floating mass is a menacing figure wearing a dark trench coat and a traditional Japanese kabuki mask. Hiro grabs Baymax's hand as they desperately sprint through the warehouse. The masked man moves effortlessly. Hiro and Baymax scramble up a metal staircase, but the villain rips the stairs off the wall, sending them tumbling out of a high window, making Hiro landing down on Baymax. Hiro rushes to the police station, frantically explaining that a masked supervillain stole his microbots and killed his brother. But the officer assumes Hiro is just hallucinating from trauma. Realizing the law won't help, Hiro decides to take matters into his own hands and left with Baymax on low battery. If he wants to stop this villain, he needs to upgrade Baymax from a gentle healthcare companion into a formidable combat machine. Hiro builds a specialized, hard plastic armor suit to protect Baymax's fragile vinyl skin. Next, he programs a secondary red chip filled with advanced martial arts data. Opening Baymax's chest port, which holds his original, altruistic healthcare chip programmed by Tadashi, Hiro slides the new combat chip right in next to it. Equipped with armor and a fighting database, making Baymax able to display the skills and punches through woods. Hiro and Baymax head back to the harbor. The warehouse was empty and the microbot was point into another direction. Just as they reach the docks, the masked villain emerges from the ocean. Suddenly a sleek car pulls up containing Gogo, Wasabi, Honey Lemon, and Fred. Baymax had secretly contacted them, believing a supportive social circle was essential for Hiro's mental recovery. Before Hiro can warn them, the ground shakes violently. Crashing through the pavement is the masked villain, riding a colossal mountain of microbots. The villain launches a barrage of metal spikes. Panicking, everyone piles into Wasabi's compact car. While escaping, Gogo leaps into the driver's seat, slamming on the gas as a massive wave of microbots crashes down. A high-stakes chase ensues through the steep hills of San Francisco. The masked man pursues them, constructing massive ramps and arms to crush the vehicle from above. The villain corners them on a long, dark pier. With nowhere left to run, Gogo hits a nitrous oxide boost, launching the car off the edge. The vehicle plummets deep into the freezing, pitch-black ocean below, sinking rapidly. The masked man stands silently at the edge, assuming the group is dead. Thanks to Baymax's natural buoyancy, he pulls everyone safely out of the drowning vehicle and drags them to a secluded shoreline. Shivering and traumatized, the group realizes Hiro was right. Fred suggests they seek shelter at his house, which turns out to be a colossal, ultra-luxurious mansion covering an entire city block. Fred is actually a multi-billionaire heir. While drying off in Fred's massive comic book room, the group tries to figure out the villain's identity. Fred theorizes it must be Alistair Cray, who wanted the technology. Baymax mentions that his advanced medical sensors scanned the masked villain's vital signs during the scuffle. Hiro realizes that if they upgrade Baymax's scanners to map the city, they can locate the villain instantly. Looking around at his brilliant friends, Hiro realizes they need to become a team. Hiro unleashes his engineering genius, transforming his quirky group of science nerd friends into a high-tech superhero task force. Gogo receives a sleek yellow aerodynamic suit with magnetic levitation discs on her wrists and boots, allowing her to skate at supersonic speeds and throw the discs as returning boomerangs. Wasabi gets a heavy battle suit featuring twin plasma blade energy emitters on his forearms, capable of slicing through any defense. Honey Lemon obtains an advanced chemical manipulation suit linked to her purse, allowing her to instantly synthesize and launch specialized orb grenades. Fred enters a giant, blue, three-eyed monster rubber suit equipped with integrated flamethrowers and super-jumping hydraulics. Hiro builds his own purple and black tactical armor set featuring magnetic locks that anchor him securely to Baymax's back. The crowning achievement is Baymax's massive version 2.0 upgrade. He now possesses a massive wingspan for supersonic flight and dual rocket-propelled fists capable of shattering steel. To test the systems, Hiro hitches a ride on Baymax's back, blasting off into the sky and rocketing high above the clouds of San Francisco. Soaring past skyscrapers and wind turbines, Hiro feels a true sense of joy for the first time since his brother's death, hugging Baymax tightly. Standing atop the iconic bridge, Hiro commands Baymax to scan the metropolitan area. Within seconds, Baymax locks onto a match coming from a remote, heavily restricted, uncharted tropical island off the coast. The team flies out to the mysterious island, sneaking into an abandoned, top-secret government military research facility buried in the jungle. Inside the crumbling concrete ruins, they discover a massive command center overlooking a ruined laboratory chamber. In the center is the wreckage of a massive, unstable, experimental teleportation portal device. Honey Lemon finds a corrupted security recording on a computer terminal. The video reveals Alistair Cray standing next to military generals years ago, demonstrating a highly dangerous, experimental teleportation project called Project Silent Sparrow. Despite his lead scientists warning him that the portal's energy containment field was unstable, the arrogant Cray ignored them to secure a military contract. The test pilot was lost forever inside the collapsing dimension, and the project was immediately classified. Fred yells that his theory was correct. Cray is using the stolen microbots to rebuild the portal and seek revenge against the government. Suddenly, a heavy broken walls was thrown against them, revealing the terrifying masked figure did it. But upgraded Baymax as it under control smashed out the broken walls, and then the team springs into action. But because they are inexperienced nerds, their coordination is a complete disaster. Taking advantage of the chaos, the masked villain ruthlessly bats them aside. Hiro commands Baymax to execute a surprise aerial dive, tackling the villain hard into a concrete wall. Hiro grabs the mask from the floor. Without the connection, the millions of microbots crash harmlessly to the ground. The masked villain falls to his knees, completely exposed. The entire team gasps in absolute horror. It wasn't Cray. It was Professor Callahan. He was alive. Hiro stands frozen, his mind fracturing. He reminds Callahan that Tadashi ran into the inferno to save him, and died doing so. Callahan looks at Hiro with chilling, heartless indifference, coldly stating that was his mistake. Callahan explains that on the night of the expo, he used a protective wall of thousands of microbots to shield himself from the catastrophic blast, letting Tadashi die to cover up his own survival. Hearing the cold-blooded disrespect toward his dead brother, a dark, consuming rage takes over Hiro's soul. Tears of pure fury filling his eyes, Hiro opens Baymax's chest compartment and violently rips out Tadashi's green healthcare chip, leaving only the aggressive red combat chip inside. Hiro points a trembling finger. Baymax, destroy him. Baymax's thrusters roar to life. He rockets toward Callahan, his massive metal fist cocked back. Horrified, the rest of the team leaps forward to save Callahan. Fred tackles Baymax from behind, but the soulless robot effortlessly flings him across the room, giving a terrified Callahan just enough time to recover the fallen kabuki mask and escape out the window on a small wave of remaining microbots. In a desperate, last-second move, Honey Lemon manages to open Baymax's chest port and slides Tadashi's green healthcare chip back into the slot. The red rage vanishes, and Baymax returns to his gentle demeanor. Infuriated that his friends allowed his brother's killer to escape, Hiro hops onto Baymax's back and commands him to blast off, abandoning his friends stranded on the remote island. Back at his garage lab, Hiro is completely consumed by vengeance. He tries to forcefully rip Tadashi's healthcare chip out again, but Baymax firmly blocks his hands, explaining that his programming strictly prohibits him from killing humans. Hiro yells that Callahan killed Tadashi, and that eliminating him is the only way to make the pain inside his chest go away. Then, Baymax utters a phrase that stops Hiro dead in his tracks: "Tadashi is here." Hiro snaps, yelling that Tadashi is dead, but Baymax gently touches his own chest video projector screen, repeating, "Tadashi is here." What follows is a heartbreaking, beautiful montage of old laboratory test recordings showing a younger Tadashi working tirelessly on developing Baymax. We see test after test failing miserably, but no matter how many hundreds of times he fails, Tadashi never gives up. Finally, the recording reaches test number 84. A fully functioning Baymax inflates for the first time. Tadashi gasps in pure, ecstatic joy, jumping around the room. Seeing his brother's selfless face completely melts the ice around Hiro's heart. The toxic, vengeful rage evaporates. Hiro realizes that if he had turned Baymax into a cold-blooded murder weapon, he would have destroyed the beautiful legacy his brother sacrificed everything to create. Just then, the rest of the team arrives, having hitched a ride back via Fred's family helicopter. Instead of yelling at Hiro, they walk into the room and wrap him in a massive group hug, validating his immense pain. Honey Lemon reveals that she managed to recover the rest of the secret government data files. The files reveal the tragic identity of the test pilot lost inside the portal experiment years ago, Abigail Callahan, Professor Callahan's beloved daughter. Professor Callahan didn't steal the microbots for money or power, he stole them out of a broken, grieving father's blinding desire for revenge. Suddenly, crashing down from the clouds is a colossal mountain of millions of microbots. Callahan lands right on the main stage of a public event, using the metallic swarm to instantly seize a terrified Alistair Cray. Callahan utilizes the microbots to reassemble the experimental portal device right above the roof of the Cray Tech skyscraper. He activates the machine, and the massive portal begins to spin violently, creating a terrifying gravitational vortex that begins to rip the city apart. Callahan looks at a screaming Cray, telling him he is going to watch everything he built be sucked into oblivion before being tossed into the void himself. Just before Callahan can drop Cray into the roaring vortex, Big Hero 6 arrives. Hero tries to appeal to Callahan's humanity, pleading with him to stop, telling him that destroying the city won't bring his daughter back. But Callahan is completely consumed by rage and commands the infinite army of microbots to obliterate the heroes. A massive battle erupts across the collapsing plaza. Callahan is a monster in combat, constructing massive arms that smash the heroes through solid concrete pillars. Wasabi slices through waves of metal with his twin plasma blades. Gogo skates at supersonic speeds dodging crushing blows. Fred unleashes a massive torrent of fire, and Honey Lemon launches chemical grenades to create barriers to protect herself. Despite their incredible upgrades, the heroes are quickly overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of the microbots. Callahan pins the team down, slowly crushing them beneath a mountain of solid metal. Looking up at the swirling vortex, Hiro realizes they can't defeat Callahan through brute force. He remembers his brother's immortal advice: change your angle. He notices that the microbots are being pulled into the vortex's gravitational field whenever they get too close. Hiro barks a brilliant new command to his team: stop attacking Callahan directly. Focus entirely on breaking apart the microbots and letting the portal suck them away. The team flawlessly executes the new strategy. Wasabi slices off massive chunks of the metallic swarm. Gogo uses her magnetic discs to sever the structures, and Fred and Honey Lemon use fire and chemicals to shatter the formations. Slowly but surely, Callahan's massive army begins to shrink, dwindling from a towering mountain down to a pathetic, fragile hill. Callahan panics, desperately trying to command the remaining pods to form a defensive wall. Hiro and Baymax seize the perfect window, executing a blindingly fast aerial dive straight through Callahan's final defenses. Then Baymax shatters Callahan's kabuki mask into a million pieces. The battle is won. The microbots are completely gone. The unstable portal device behind them begins to fracture, violently short-circuiting and preparing to explode within minutes. The heroes prepare to evacuate immediately, but as they turn to leave, Baymax suddenly stops dead in his tracks. His advanced medical sensors begin to twitch, scanning deep inside the swirling depths of the portal vortex. Baymax turns to Hiro, calmly stating, "Hiro, I am detecting a female vital sign from inside the portal. She is in hypersleep. She is still alive." Hiro's heart leaps into his throat. Abigail, Callahan's daughter, is still floating alive inside her experimental capsule within the subspace void. But the portal is collapsing rapidly, with less than 4 minutes before a permanent explosion. Without a single second of hesitation, Hiro looks at Baymax and says, "We're going in." Hiro and Baymax plunge headfirst into the terrifying, beautiful unknown of the subspace dimension. They navigate through a surreal, zero-gravity graveyard of floating debris and glowing cosmic dust. Flying deeper into the beautiful abyss, Baymax spots the sleek, white Crytek test flight capsule floating aimlessly. They rush over, and Hiro looks through the reinforced glass window to see Abigail Callahan, trapped in a deep state of cryogenic hypersleep but completely unharmed. Baymax grabs the heavy capsule with his powerful mechanical arms, fires his thrusters, and begins pushing the ship back toward the small, distant glowing exit opening of the portal. Suddenly, a massive, floating mountain of shattered concrete debris is pulled into the dimension by the collapsing field. A colossal, jagged boulder crashes violently into the side of Baymax, dealing a catastrophic blow. The situation instantly turns fatal. Without his thruster engines, Baymax cannot propel them out of the dimension. He looks at Hiro, his gentle voice echoing softly inside Hiro's helmet, revealing that his massive rocket-propelled fist gauntlet is still fully functional. He can position himself behind the capsule, fire his rocket fist, and use the intense kinetic force to launch Hiro and Abigail safely out of the closing portal. A split second later, Hiro and Abigail's capsule bursts out of the portal roof, crashing hard onto the pavement outside. Behind them, the experimental portal device violently implodes. Hiro falls out of the capsule, looking at his friends. Baymax was gone. He had sacrificed everything to save them. Medical teams and police officers swarm the roof. Abigail Callahan is safely wheeled into an ambulance, opening her eyes for the first time in years. Professor Callahan is led away in handcuffs, weeping in deep shame and gratitude as he watches his daughter live. Months pass, and San Francisco heals from the crisis. Hiro officially takes his rightful place as a full-time student at the San Francisco Institute of Technology, living out his brother's dream. One afternoon, while setting up his new workbench, Hiro carefully unpacks the single, severed rocket fist gauntlet that Baymax used to save his life. Hiro looks at the empty metal hand affectionately, tracing its contours. Suddenly, he notices something peculiar inside the metal hand. He pries the metal fingers open. Tucked safely inside the palm of the glove is Tadashi's original green healthcare programming chip. Baymax had secretly ejected his own memory core chip and stored it inside the glove, knowing that his little brother would figure out a way to build him a new body. Finally, the new robot is fully assembled. The red capsule expands with a soft hiss. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one.